Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. I am Mark Baze, the preacher at Blue Baptist Church, and I operate Mark Baze Ministries. And the entire focus of our ministry is to teach the Bible grammatically, historically, contextually, rightly dividing it, and defending the grace message, saved by grace through faith, not of works. And so I hope that you are finding our ministry to be encouraging. Hopefully you find our Bible studies to be useful. Also, we are using a new mic today. Well, one that we switched over to yesterday, so if the audio is a little bit off, by all means, please just let me know, and I'll do whatever I need to do to correct that. So, thank you all for being here with us. Excited to get into some interesting discussion today. And one thing that we're going to be talking about here in a little bit is this very interesting event that occurs when a preacher decides to leave a church. This happens a lot. Anybody who's been a part of a church has probably seen a pastor leave. And the interesting thing that what I was reading about this morning is the vast majority, well, I will say this, the reasons for a preacher to leave a church 40% of the time is the claim that they received a new calling, this new calling from God. And so I've talked about it before, but I want to explore it some more because it's a part of this pastor crisis that we have. Okay, there is a pastor crisis, and it's a broad range of issues, but I want to talk about that today, so hopefully you are excited for that. We're going to continue to talk about Great Britain because there are some signs of hope that maybe Great Britain is having a return to Christianity, Christian values, biblical values. But like I said before, the key question is it too little too late? All right, that's something that I want to have a serious discussion about because I think it matters. Now, also, Trump and Zelensky had a very interesting and important meeting. And what happened? Was any decisions made? We'll find out. And spoiler alert, nothing, but I'll still give you my thoughts anyways. And then let's see here. Epstein documents are going to be given to Congress. Are we going to get any new shocking revelation? I'll give you my thoughts on that as well. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that, some theology, some current events, culture, you name it. It's a little bit of a variety show. Okay, I'll remind you that we are going live right now on markbazeministries.org. So we have an external source for videos. If YouTube ever decides that I say too many things that are true and want to take me down, we have markbazeministries.org right here, which is a catalog of a number of videos. Eventually, we're going to get more articles added as well. These are just all things that are to come. But over here on all videos, you have the whole list of our series that we're doing, whether it's our new Hosea series, a guide to the Greek Scripture, studying Abraham, the one that we wrapped up recently, Doctrine and Practice, the Last Days, all of that is recorded there on markbazeministries.org. Obviously, you can find out more about the ministry if you would like, and so there's that, and as well, if you accidentally hit the donate button, it'd be greatly appreciated. All right. Now, before we get into all these other things, I want to share with you something. Let me get my words out here. Share with you something that I'm actually excited about. Okay, sometimes it seems like I'm always just grumpy Gus over here and just complaining and whatnot, but there is something going on that I really like to see. So let's go ahead and show you Fox News. It's not Fox News itself that I'm all that excited about, but they do have an article on it. RFK Jr., Hegseth face off an impressive pull-up, push-up Pentagon showdown. So at the Pentagon, they had a number of soldiers there, and they are doing this fitness challenge in which they are trying to complete 50 pull-ups, 100 push-ups in 5 minutes or less. Let's see here. I'll show you a little bit of the video. Hopefully we don't get hit with an ad. We're going to get hit with an ad because, of course, we're going to get hit with an ad. Because I'm too cheap to pay for anything. All right, so here we go. Here's going to be the presidential fitness test.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS Secretary. I'm here with Secretary Hegseth from the Department of Defense. And we had our big Pete and Bobby challenge today. 50 pull-ups, 100 push-ups.
It's just good to see the guys in charge of health as well as our military actually living it out, you know, showing that they are physically capable. And then obviously we got some soldiers here who are also doing the challenge.
This is the beginning of our tour, challenging Americans to get back in shape, eat better, but also you need to get out and exercise.
So with that, it makes you feel good. I'm glad to see it. We in America, it's a shame that physical fitness is not valued as much as it should be, and that's evident obviously when you look at rates of people who are overweight. And also, if you just look at our youth today, think about in the 1940s, the 1950s, the 1960s, when the draft was going on. Regardless of how you feel about the draft, the point is the pool of young men where you could draft a young man and he could complete basic training. I don't know what the pass rate was, but I would imagine it was pretty high because they were all physically capable. Nowadays, just go by a school and see the health of a lot of these kids. Even some of these kids who are playing sports, you would think that the athletes would be in decent shape. A lot of these kids are not in good shape either. And so I am all for promoting physical fitness. And it's good to see Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Secretary of Health, Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, getting in there, getting involved, and inspiring people. So I was inspired because I guess I'm going to do it. So today, when I go do my workout, I've got some other stuff I've got to do. Got to do some bench press. But once I get done with that, I'll do the challenge, okay? So 50 pull-ups, 100 push-ups in 5 minutes, all right? So I'll video the whole thing. You can watch it tomorrow. We'll see how it does. Okay, the first time I'm ever showing you any of that stuff. But I think it's good. And I wish that more churches were a place of physically capable men. We talk about this all the time. If we want young men to be interested in church, perhaps there need to be men in churches who are someone they would look up to, right? Instead of these weak, feminized, overweight, unhealthy men that we so often see today. Toby says that's great to see since the former administration had men wearing dresses and not exercising. Yeah. Or showing commercials for joining the military, talking about how great it was that this little 120-pound girl had 2 moms. Yeah, it's definitely a big deal. I guarantee you, despite all the noise that people are making in the media, all the complaining about Trump and all this, just ask the soldiers, how do they feel about this? All right, how are they feeling about having Pete Hegseth, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. being involved? It's a big deal, and so I just hope America keeps their heads on straight. They don't buy all the propaganda that's going to be spewed by the Democrats, because the reality is, even if Trump accomplishes nothing else in office, and who knows what he's going to get done or what he won't get done, just the fact that we have a Secretary of Health who is not confused in believing he's a woman, and we actually have morale in the military again, probably a good thing. All right, I'm just saying it's probably better than the alternative. Recruitment numbers are way up. Rick says, I'll provide the comic relief and post a video of me doing the challenge. Not really. Oh, come on now, Rick. I bet you could keep up with me. You eat healthy enough. If you do it, you know, then that's more power to you. All right, moving on. Interesting things there. I thought that was encouraging. Now, let's quickly talk about the Trump and Zelensky meeting. Daily Wire here. I'm not going to read the article, really, because I don't think there's anything to report. With historic visit, Donald Trump moves the world one step closer to peace. Positive headline there. Hopefully that's the case. I will say it was a much more friendly meeting. You will recall the last time Zelensky was in the Oval Office, things did not go great. The gist of it was he wasn't being very respectful. Of course, you know, he showed up in his outfit that he wears, kind of semi-military, kind of semi, just casual. I don't really know what it is. Interesting fashion choice. This time you can see he is wearing a sort of suit jacket and a button-up collared shirt. So he did look a lot more professional in the meeting. They kind of joked around a little bit about him dressing nicer, and he kind of seemed to be going along with it and everything. It was a friendlier meeting. It's reported that Trump immediately after the meeting with Zelensky talked to Putin on the phone for like 40 minutes. So what do we know? Nothing. Trump is not going to give the chips away. Now, I think Trump believes he's close to making a deal. I don't know what that deal is going to look like, what land Ukraine gives up, what land it retains. As far as security guarantees, I don't know. So anybody who's telling you right now that they have any idea about what's really going on, I don't think they do. So I would just say, don't worry about it. Quit worrying about it. Don't be panicking. Let Trump do his job, okay? We hired him to handle these things, and the reality is Biden was going to get nowhere. It's because of Biden, Obama that we're in this mess in the first place. Partly maybe George Bush as well, some of his weaker approach to Russia later in his term. So I'm curious to see what Trump's able to get done. I'm still supporting Trump. I'm still behind him. I know there's some people that want to complain about him. I think that he is doing what he believes needs to be done, and he's just playing by the rules of this massive federal government and the executive branch. I can't fault him for that. Trump did not make the rules when it comes to this massive overreaching federal government, okay? He's just simply saying, okay, so here's the rules, and I'm going to use every bit of those to my advantage, and I think that's what he's doing. So I would say we don't know anything yet. There's no point in going on and on and on about it, trying to speculate what is happening behind these closed doors. Charlie Duke said, what freaked me out is when Trump mentioned something about 3.5 years and no voting. Yeah, there was that joke. It was, folks, I think it's a joke. There was the statement made about how there's not any elections occurring in Ukraine right now because of the war. And I guess that's I don't know if that's a technical law that Ukraine has or exactly how that goes about. I'm not an expert on legal matters, and especially legal matters in Ukraine. But yeah, Zelensky has been president now beyond his technical term because they're not holding elections. Then Trump, made the joke of, if we go to war in 3.5 years, there won't be any voting. And so here's the thing. Trump loves to say things to get the liberal media fired up. I think Trump is of the mentality that all publicity is good publicity, and he knows that he can say something and it'll get him airtime on TV. I think he's just playing around. I think he's trolling, the modern internet term. I really don't think that Trump is going to try for a third term. But I will remind you, okay? Ronald Reagan even kind of campaigned against the idea of term limits. Term limits were not something baked into the Constitution. It was something added, but it wasn't a part of the original founding document. George Washington served two terms and he stepped down. And so everybody kind of followed that pattern, but not everybody did. FDR was elected president, 4 times? He didn't get to really finish that 4th term. But, he was essentially, he didn't care about tradition or precedence. He just continued to run, and it was only until afterwards, that they decided to pass this amendment to where you were limited to 2 terms. I just don't freak out about it as much as some people, I guess. We're still electing him. Trump would have to, in theory, turn around and win again. And I don't know about you, but I don't think Trump's rigging the voting machines. Maybe I'm ignorant. I think if he was rigging the voting machines, he would have won in 2020. Just my thoughts. Brother Pugs, he's got some comments, I guess, for Trump's administration. Drop the tariffs on coffee, LOL. I went to Wally Mart after track ministry and up $2 in 1 week. Yeah, the tariffs are gonna, I think that is something we're gonna start to see in pricing. I shoot quite a bit, and so I'm getting ready to see like the price, because there is some ammunition that comes out of South Korea, PMC, and I'm ready to see a price increase in it. But the good thing is America has manufacturers as well. So we'll see how all of that plays out. My blood is coffee, Brother Pug says. I do like my coffee, I will admit. Now, moving on from the Trump-Zelensky meeting, let's go ahead and get into one more cultural thing. I think this is the last one I have. Yeah, well, actually, it's not the last cultural thing, but we're going to get into some theology here in just a minute. One more from the Daily Wire here. DOJ to start giving Congress Epstein docs by week's end, House Oversight Chair says. So, I guess that's an agreement. The DOJ is going to start giving Congress Epstein documents. So this means absolutely nothing. I'm sorry. I know you want to get down to the bottom of things. I would love to have the whole story. I'm still wanting to know what happened at Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas in 2017, the worst mass shooting in modern American history, and they're claiming that it was done with an AR-15 and a bump stock, and when you listen to the cadence of fire, that sounds nothing like an AR-15 with a bump stock. So I would love to get the whole story on a number of things that the government is not forthcoming on. I'm just telling you, I would not expect much. I would imagine what's going to happen is the documents that's going to be given to Congress, it's going to be the same stuff they gave to the influencers back in February or whatever. You may recall that a few weeks after Trump took office, they had all these big internet figures come to the White House. They gave them binders. Here's all the Epstein stuff, and it turned out to be, this is all stuff we already knew. I think you will learn nothing new about Epstein. I'm sorry. It's frustrating. I'm angry about it. You should be angry too. At the same time, I'm not surprised. That's the way that the government does things. You're not going to get the whole story. Now, here's an interesting thing. Hypothetically, maybe what the government's telling us is true, that he really did kill himself, that there is no actual flight log list and, his clients and videos of world leaders engaging in all of the the horrendous crimes and the trafficking. Maybe there's none of that. But the truth is, because the government has burned us before and has not been forthcoming on so many other issues, it's not like people are going to believe them. They're gonna think, they're gonna be convinced that they're being lied to. And you should just assume that the government's lying to you. That's just a general good rule of thumb, because they often are. COVID exposed so much of that, and now people are going back and looking at other previous events and realizing, hey, we weren't just being lied to about COVID. There's a whole host of things that the government has not been forthcoming on. So I don't know what the whole story behind Epstein is. Was he really working for Mossad, or was he technically an agent for the CIA? Like I said, I just think we're going to learn nothing new. I wish that I could tell you differently, but I think that when the documents are handed over to the House of Congress, you'll learn nothing. It'll be the same stuff. Nothing will change. The House of Representatives, the senators, nobody's going to have anything to add. And there may be some that will complain and say that we're not getting the whole picture, and then other people will just get really quiet and not say anything else after that, and it'll continue to go on. It's a shame, because this is the one thing that really does hurt Trump. It has given him a black eye for a number of people, because Trump, the great thing about Trump is he was always the outsider. He was going to drain the swamp. And now because it seems like he's not going to let the truth out when it comes to Epstein. It looks like he's involved. He's indicted on it. Obviously, there's a little bit of history between him and Epstein, but obviously he wasn't as close to Epstein as like the Clintons. It is what it is. And like I said, I'm sorry. I know it's frustrating, and many of you have a fire under you about the issue, but I'm just trying to be honest with you, and my assessment is you're not going to get anything new on it, and that's just what it is. I'm sorry. It's frustrating things. But hey, maybe we can be optimistic. Maybe somebody here is holding out hope. Maybe we will learn something new. I doubt it. I don't think it's going to happen. All right, moving on to something that is a little bit more encouraging, but also at the same time makes me wonder if it's too little too late. This is coming from Breitbart here. And Christian revival belief in God triples among 18 to 24-year-old Britons. That is a very encouraging thing to see. And I'm not talking about how much you should walk to lose 30 pounds. But this fact that young people are turning back to God, what are the causes for it? Once again, Breitbart has a lot of ads here. But I think there's a number of reasons for it. I think one is young people are nostalgic to a degree for how some things used to be, and even maybe for some things they never experienced themselves. They don't like the post-secular culture that has taken over their countries. Britain, the United States is a good example. They're getting fed up with it, and they're tired of buying the propaganda from media. They're just not caring anymore. There was a time when, I mean, not that long ago, if you were in college in 2013 or 2013 to 2016, the worst thing that could ever be accused of you is that you were racist. All right, people were terrified. It ended careers, I'm not talking just college. It ended political careers. It ended television careers. You name it. If there was any whiff of you being racist, and by racist, I'm not talking about, oh, so-and-so is actually a member of the Klan, or oh, so-and-so actually displayed genuine racist behavior. No, it's as simple as saying something like, hey, why is gun violence highest in urban cities where there's a large black population? Racist, you're a racist for that. That's what they would say. Pointing out that there's just this simple reality of a higher rate of violence amongst different groups. You would be considered racist for that. If you showed concern about the United States just letting Muslims enter into the country from the Middle East, and you're thinking, hey, hold on now, I thought that this was kind of a problem. I thought they didn't really like America. I feel like they voiced that quite clearly. You're a racist. They were terrified of it. And that was the millennial generation. The millennials were some of the most liberal of all generations. Ask me how I know. I'm one of them. And they bought into all of the absurd, ridiculous transgenderism. They bought into a whole lot of other of the LGBTQ type mentality. They hated America and pro-feminism. And people look at the society today, and the men are emasculated, women are miserable. Our country has lost a large part of its identity. It's now all they've ever been told, these young people, these Gen Zers, is how evil and terrible they are for being white. And then they're looking around saying, I didn't do anything to anybody. Yeah, but you know what? Your ancestors did, and you're racist. You just don't even know it. It's not enough to just be racist. You must be anti-racist. And so they are so sick and tired of all of the progressive leftist ideology, and they're finally becoming unapologetic, and they're pushing back. All right, they don't care anymore. They don't care. Trying to get my words together here. They don't care what you call them. All right, they have been called racists, sexists, bigots. They've been called Nazis. When you've been called that all this time and you know that you are neither racist nor sexist, you are just simply holding to a biblical worldview that has been held to for thousands of years, they're not scared anymore. And they're turning back to traditional values because they see that society is so messed up. And so as a result, they are turning back to traditional values. They're rejecting the modern ideology. And what do they associate this modern liberal ideology with? Mass immigration, atheism, secularism, as well as Islam, because so many Muslims have entered into Great Britain. This is just a reality. I mean, it's almost a Muslim country at this point. Depending on where you live, it is a Muslim country. So what's the tradition? What do you get back to fight against it? It's the Anglican Church. It's Christianity. So they're turning back to it. And it's a good thing to see, but here's my concern. Is this movement, all right, the number of 18 to 24-year-olds professing belief in God rose from 16% in August of 2021 to 45% as of January of this year. It's a massive increase, representing a 181% increase. This is excellent. This is great. You are encouraged to see it, but is it too little too late? Did the older generation already bring Britain to the point of no return? And the truth is, I don't know how well I can judge that because I'm not there. It's hard to judge things even right now. I'm looking around in southeastern Oklahoma. I can't quite tell what the winds are. I'm not sure if we're going to head more towards independent republic type mentality of let us govern ourselves. I don't want big government involved. Or if we're going to trend more towards the soft socialism of all these government programs and big federal government. I don't know what we're going to do here in southeastern Oklahoma necessarily, let alone Oklahoma as a state. So I have no idea what Britain's going to do, but my concern is you have flooded your country with people who do not share your values, okay? They honestly hate Western civilization. They want to establish Sharia law in Britain, and I don't know if you now have the manpower to overcome the movement. Can you outvote them? In some cases, can you outfight them? There's literally been attacks. There was in Britain, there was a stabbing that took place by a Muslim man and killed a number of young girls. Brother Pugs asked, was that poll questioning belief in God in the Christian sense or just God in general? Let me go back and look at that poll really quickly. Let's see here. So it just says belief in God there, but then if you read this, it says this has coincided with a 56% rise in those who attend church at least once a month. That would not be Islam, right? That would be church. Between 2018 and 2024, with the number of regular churchgoers increasing from 3.7 million to 5.8 million. So it definitely sounds like this is an increase in Christianity. Okay, Gen Z, here's an article or a post from Breitbart London. Gen Z driving UK Christian revival, its Bible sales, church attendance source. So the trend is definitely showing a rise in Christianity itself, not just this general belief in God. So I don't know. It's a crazy thing to talk about because in our modern times, things are so We're so far removed from so much of the past. Folks, there was a time when Catholics and Protestants went to war. All right? Catholics and Protestants fought each other. There was fights between different groups of Protestants. There's certainly been fights between Christianity and Islam. Go back and look at the Crusades. Are we, I don't know, are we heading towards potentially a religious war between Christianity and Islam? I don't know. If it's going to happen, if it's going to kick off somewhere, it's probably going to be Britain before anywhere else. Because Britain has a strong Christian history, that Anglican tradition. And you take a country with a strong Christian tradition and you force together those who are very different in ideology. I know that, people like Tucker Carlson, who had, it was a joke interview with Mother Agapia Stephanopoulos, George Stephanopoulos, worked for the Clinton administration. It was such a fluff piece. It was no fact checking was done. She paints this picture, Christians and Muslims just live in harmony. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that at all. Yes, there may be some moderate Muslims that live in like Jordan, but you go into Iraq. Go into Iraq, go into Afghanistan, unapologetically profess Christianity and see how that goes for you. The liberals of today want to paint a picture of, Muslims are peaceful people. And some people on the woke right, like I said, Tucker Carlson's drifting that way all the more, which is a shame because he's had some interesting thoughts. And he still has some interesting thoughts. I thought his interview he had yesterday was pretty interesting regarding the drift from a republic to an empire that America is at now. We are transitioning, or maybe already are, an empire. We probably already are. But this mentality of, Islam and Christianity can coexist, maybe bad Muslims, and not bad as in terrorist Muslims, but bad as in they don't follow their theology well, maybe they'll coexist with Christianity. But a fundamental Muslim, a true Islamic fundamentalist, will not peacefully coincide with Christianity. That's not how their religion works. That's not how their faith works. It makes you wonder, where are we headed? History does have a strong sense of repeating itself. And I know people think, we're so highly evolved. We're beyond these petty things. We've now reached the point of there's a few of those ignorant, religious, believing people, whoever, Neil deGrasse Tyson and whatnot, those people that think they're so smart. But I'm telling you right now, when there is the recalibration back to religion is foundational and is necessary and needs to be defended, we may see another war between Islam and Christianity. In a sense, the war in the Middle East was kind of that to some degree, just because it's a Western power versus an Eastern power. I don't know. I don't want that for Britain. We never would want war. We hope that the Muslims in Britain can be converted to belief in the God of the Bible, receiving Christ as the promised Savior, the Son of God. That's what we would want, and we would want Britain to be able to reclaim it. I want Britain to be an ally. Okay, I want them to be a Christian ally. I want them to be as conservative as us. I want Britons to regain rights to own firearms, to defend themselves. I want all those things. I just don't know if it's going to happen in a peaceful way. I hope so, but they may be too far gone. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Does anybody have any insight on Britain? I know sometimes we have people from Britain who watch. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that Britain is going to be able to correct course here? Paul, speaking to the matter of Epstein, I know we want justice in our lifetime to see things get what they deserve, but I keep reminding myself all will bend the knee before God, and then justice will be true and righteous. That's how you sleep at night. That you have to just be mindful of that, and that's how you will sleep. So you're right there, Paul. Charlie Duke says, thinking a good reason is for Brits seeking is all the garbage going on and seeking a deeper purpose. Yeah, they're so tired of the spill of secularism. Oh, you evolved from an amoeba, 250 million years ago. Get out of here, all right? Your evolutionary, how do I sound like a preacher? Your evolutionary hogwash, it doesn't stand, we don't, get out of here, all right? We're tired of hearing it. Stop citing your silly little biology books claiming that the earth is, however many millions of years old. We don't, you're testing for rocks. Okay, keep testing rocks and keep hiding all the times when the rocks don't align with your preconceived notions. Okay, yeah, so you think carbon dating proves that the earth is older than 6,000 years? Maybe your carbon dating's wrong. I'm going to default to the Bible because the Bible is true and certain, and your carbon dating is not, because you're assuming that the radioactive decay of carbon and the ratio of carbon-14 to carbon-12 and others has always been the same. You have assumptions baked into your calculations, and we're just taking the Bible for what it says. Also, you know what? Hey, if the gap theory is true, that there's a gap between Genesis 1 and Genesis 2, that works out as well. I'm fine with either one, okay? I'm good. What I'm not good with is your silly hogwash, use whatever term you want, of claiming all this evolutionary nonsense. Get it out of the classrooms. Quit filling our kids' heads with this nonsense. And the sooner that apologists in Christianity start becoming theologians instead of apologists, and they start defending the Bible for what it says, the better we are. Those are my thoughts on a Tuesday. I'm feeling kind of fired up right now. Shields and arrows, defending the faith, the family, and the fellowship. Tell you what, I'm going to use this motivation to get through that workout we're going to do later. Speaking of workout, Robert says I have curtailed my push-ups due to a shoulder problem. What can I say? I'm just not the man I was last year at 78. Oh, Robert, just take a rest and you'll get back to it. Brother Puck says spirit of Antichrist is pretty thick these days everywhere. Islam fights right in. Fits right in my humble opinion. Yeah, that's an interesting thing about Islam. We don't really see a lot of room for Islam in the book of Revelation. How does it fit in? But we'll see. Things can shift and change fast. We'll find out. We'll find out. Hey, we've got Jason Bratcher on. Jason, great to have you on with us. Silly scientifics don't impress me much. I agree. Silly scientifics that are not based on a biblical worldview don't impress me. And it says, first timer here, totally blind since birth. Well, Jason, I've met a few people. I went to college with a gentleman who was blind since birth. It always amazes me how the body can adapt and how other senses are able to account for the lack of seeing. I imagine your hearing is much highly attuned as compared to ours. Probably your spatial awareness, where you are as far as being able to determine where your body is in space. Because a lot of people who have sight have terrible spatial awareness. If they close their eyes, they'll just fall over. It's an interesting thing. So really encouraged to meet you, Jason. I'd like to know where you're from. And are you familiar with the ministry of rightly dividing the word of truth, as we try to do here, understanding that there's a distinct ministry that Paul had, which is to the Gentiles concerning our gospel of salvation by grace through faith, not of works, and that the promises of a kingdom and enduring and the law, that's all for Israel. God has put all that on hold right now, but in the future when our age of grace is come to an end and God focuses back on the nation of Israel, and the nation of Israel is in prophetic Israel, He'll restore them. So, great to meet you. Lord, he says, Lord made me this way from the dust of the earth. Amen. God made us. We didn't evolve from something else. And to the dust of the earth I shall return. And I fully believe, Jason, that if you believe Jesus is the Son of God, the perfect sacrifice for your sins, that He died and rose again, and by believing that you are saved and there's nothing you can do to earn it, you will have sight one day, Jason. You absolutely will. So, Rick says, welcome to the Shields and Arrows, or welcome to Shields and Arrows. Welcome to the team. We're always ready for excellent new recruits. All right, so let's go ahead and move on and talk about this current pastor crisis. This is from the Christian Post. Interesting article I thought today to share with you. A third of pastors who leave ministry cite burnout, conflict with church study. Now, I'm a young guy, okay? I will not sit here and tell you that I've gotten everything right as a pastor. My church will testify the same. However, I started pastoring right as I turned 25, and I'm 30 now. So I'm going on 5.5 years or so. Well, around, am I getting that right? So 25, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 6 years. All right. I've been a pastor for 6 years. And at my first church, were there conflicts? Sure. But nothing that would have made me leave. And nothing has happened at my current church that would make me leave. Now, that's not to say that there aren't conflicts that can happen. But and there certainly are. I know of a church, for example, one that is looking for a pastor right now. I would not necessarily want to try to go there. Not that I'm looking for a church. And I've told my church, if anybody here goes to church at Blue, any of our members here with us, let's see here. We've got, I don't know, is Kitty here with us today? I don't know. But we got people who've been to my church before. So just so you know, my church family, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just saying, hypothetically, if I was to go to another church, I might not last there very long for some political reasons, for some conflicting reasons. But my personal experience, I imagine Dr. White would say the same. It's kind of hard, especially in modern times. It is hard to have conflict that would lead to you being fired or forced out. All right? Now, back in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, when you could legitimately have a good career as a pastor, okay? You, especially depending on where you live, rural Texas, rural Oklahoma, go be the pastor of the First Baptist Church in town. You'll make a living. Oftentimes they had a parsonage, so you ain't paying a mortgage. And on top of that, you're getting a pretty good salary. Probably paying gas for you to go visit people. I mean, it was a sweet gig, and a lot of guys realized that, and so they hopped on the gravy train. And back then, it was probably more competitive. You would have churches calling you, saying, "Hey, would you like to come? Apply for the position." Nowadays, churches are hurting for pastors. They just can't find a pastor. And some churches still that are big enough to offer a full-time position can't find pastors. They can't get applications. Just can't do it. So the degree it would take for me to get my church to throw me out, like to get my church so mad at me that they'd say, "We're going to get rid of you." I don't know. I mean, I'd have to. What's that Trump quote? I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue in broad daylight, and they would still vote for me. That kind of quote. Preachers do have pretty good job security right now. Now, it's not to say that the job is all that it was back in the day. I mean, back in the day, our church, Blue Baptist Church, I'm sure was able to afford a full-time pastor, and they were running really, really high numbers. I'm just assuming there, maybe not, but I'd imagine probably so. But nowadays, it's hard to leave a church, okay? At least being forced out. So what that means is most of these preachers are leaving because they want to, all right, of their own accord, all right? They're not being forced out, they're choosing to leave. So here's the article. Around 1/3 of pastors who leave the ministry cite burnout or conflict with the church as the reasons. Now, I'm going to talk about burnout here in just a minute, but let's talk about conflict first, okay? According to Lifeway, I mean, I don't trust Lifeway any more than I trust CNN, but anyways. 18% of respondents cited conflict in a church as the reason for quitting, with another 16% citing burnout as the reason. I've said this before, okay? I've said this before. About the only good reason for there to be serious division in a church, for there to be a conflict worthy of leaving, whether you are the preacher or you are the congregation, is doctrinal reasons. I really do mean that. You don't like the music, so what? Okay? Now, hymns do need to be edifying, and that's an important matter, and I've discussed this with my church, and I'm still working on them, and we're going to get there. The hymns matter, the songs matter, they do, but I don't like the way that piano player plays or that lead person sings. Get over yourself. Okay, that's my thoughts. Quit whining about it. Well, they just don't have enough for the kids. Once again, quit complaining. There's more important matters at hand, okay? Do they teach sound doctrine? If the answer is no, there's your reason to leave due to conflict, because you have a conflict in doctrine. What does the Bible say? What is the gospel? What is our purpose today? What is God doing today? What's the authority of the church, the preacher? Which, you know me, I take very much the position that a preacher is just a man. He is not given a divine gift by God, and I know that makes I've got members of my church who every time I say that, they roll their eyes because they're convinced otherwise, and it's quite the compliment. They would think that I have an ability from the Lord, and I've been brought to this church here at Blue, and I thank God either way, right? I'm thankful I get to be there. I'm going to do my very best, but I'm just a man. I don't have a divine gift. Okay? And I guess if you don't like it, then find a preacher who does believe he has a divine gift. I don't know what to tell you. But other than that, why are you leaving a church? That's such a silly reason. Well, I can't get along with it. Well, get along with them. Figure it out. I don't know. Talk to them about it. And I understand if the church is... There could be some people in church who just do have bad motives, all right? After a little while, as a general rule, that's the case. Don't leave unless it's doctrinal issues, but there are exceptions. Maybe you've tried to reconcile with somebody for 2 years, and it just won't ever happen. Okay, fine, right? You can tell them the church ain't big enough for the two of us. You'll meet them at high noon, and one of you have to leave town or whatever. Do what you got to do. But for the most part, most reasons that churches split are petty and silly. Most of the time. Sometimes is it because the preacher is dipping into the offering plate more than he's supposed to? Possibly. Runs off with the piano player? Maybe. Okay, there's all those cases, and granted, there you go, fine. Take your less than 1% of cases for why people leave a church or there's conflict in the church. The rest of them are silly and petty, and you should stop it, all right? Now, what about the other reasons? 16% citing burnout. I think that's a personal problem. But I would say this, if I was a typical evangelical preacher, and when I was going to a passage in the Bible, like let's just pull up Hosea here. Jason, I guess, so since you have been blind from birth, do you have a full copy of the Bible in Braille? If so, I would imagine that's quite a big volume, isn't it? Wouldn't it make up a number of books that you would have? So I'm just curious, yeah, do you have like the full Bible in Braille? That'd be pretty fascinating. But I would be exhausted. If I went to Hosea chapter 1, verse 1, and I was going to do a verse by verse through Hosea, which most of these preachers aren't doing verse by verse because they don't really do Bible study, it would make me exhausted. I'd get burned out trying to do a application, self-help, devotional type sermon. Yeah, I'd get burned out. But you know, if you just teach the Bible and you just teach it for what it says, taking it in its plain sense, and you rightly divide it, and you study it grammatically, historically, contextually, good luck getting burned out. There's always going to be more to study. There's always going to be another book. And then by the time let's say you teach through all 66 books, quite the accomplishment. Dr. White's going to get there eventually. And I hope to as well. I'm starting young enough, right? Should be able to get through it. I've taught through how many now? I've taught through all of Matthew. Going to the Old Testament, I've taught through Esther. I'm not counting my days before being a right divider. I did teach through Ephesians and 1 John and James, and I taught almost entirely through the books of Nehemiah and Ezra and Nehemiah. But those don't count because I wasn't a right divider then. And I got it really wrong. So I've taught through Matthew, I've taught through Titus, I've taught through Philippians, and so I've got 3 knocked out there. Then I've taught through Esther, Jonah, and now I'm working on Hosea. So by the time I'm 30, I'll have 6 books under my belt. So I should be able to get there in due time. I did Job. I forgot. I taught Job as a right divider. So there's 7. Now, not all these are on record here, okay? Not all these are recorded. But I've taught 7 books. The book of Job, got it knocked out as a right divider, sure enough. There you go. Anyways, I'm never going to run out of stuff because I guarantee you by the time I get through all 66 books, I'm going to have learned something new and I'll need to reteach another book. I'll need to go back and address Matthew again because there's probably some things I missed. I'll need to go back and teach through, I don't know, one of the other Old Testament books that I've already studied. Something like that. I guarantee you I will. So if you're getting burned out, it's probably because did I misspeak? Paul says, wait, you are 30? Yeah, maybe I said when I'm 30. When I'm, older, 60, 70, whatever. If you're getting burnt out, it's because you're trying to teach the Bible wrong. And yeah, I bet it is stale. I bet it is boring. Because I was feeling burned out. Teaching just application out of everything, and everything is spiritualized, the kingdom's spiritual, and everything else, and it's just all mysticism. Yeah, it's boring, it's stale, it's dry. But if you're really trying to teach doctrine, you're never going to run out of stuff to talk about. So burnout should never happen. And if you are getting burned out doing that, maybe it ain't for you. Maybe you're just not cut out for it. Is that because you don't have the divine gift? No, it just means it's not your temperament. You're better at something else. Go do it. I ain't good at anything. Except for maybe teaching the Bible. I hope so, right? Jason talking about his Bible. I have the American Standard 1975 Bible as an audio file, so the whole thing is all self-contained. Well, very cool. By the way, I just live east of Tampa, Florida, a smaller town. There is a Grace Life Fellowship. I can't remember what town they're in Florida. Somebody help me out. Is it Orlando? Are they in Orlando? I don't know how far away Tampa is from Orlando, but you should go check them out. They're a good church. I would definitely recommend the KJV, I would say. The American Standard at 1975, that's an interesting version. I would say go KJV. First of all, it's going to sound, especially if you listen to it, it's going to sound like you're listening to poetry, because it is. It's a work of art, and it's also, I think, the best English translation we have. But that's great. I'm glad that you are being resourceful there, Jason. All right, now let's get to the other issue. The lead stated reason was a change in calling, with 40% of respondents citing this as the cause of their departure. This, to me, and that's the title of the show today, preachers using the excuse of a new calling to bail. I think it's silly. First of all, my position, and I know some will disagree, that's okay. I don't think you were called there in the first place. Now, does that mean you shouldn't have been there? No, what I'm saying is, I don't think God does that. You see, you'll read things like, I don't know. I'm trying to find an example in Scripture. But they'll read something about, like Paul or somebody traveling to some city and the Spirit leading him to go do something. Acts 19:21. After these things were ended, Paul purposed in the Spirit when he had passed through Macedonia and Achaia. Of course, the King James there doesn't capitalize it. They're telling you they don't necessarily think that's the Holy Spirit. That's just Paul's Spirit. That he should, that he's going to go do this. Let's see. I'm trying to look for an example of the Spirit, telling Paul to do something, or even preventing him from going somewhere. But you can find those examples, and if we wanted to find a really cheap example, we could go to the Old Testament and find, prophets. Prophets, I'm sending you, go preach to this king, or go to this place, this town, do this, do that. You can find all that, and so they'll read themselves in these passages of Scripture, and so they'll say, "I'm called to do this. I was called to go to this church." I would say that you weren't called to that church in the first place. If you weren't called there in the first place, how can you be called to leave? That's my thoughts. So how can you be called to leave? Now, are some of these men, do they think that they really did have a calling? Probably so. I mean, your emotions are very powerful. You can convince yourself of a lot of things. My thoughts are, I have a desire to teach. I've studied. I'm passionate about people understanding the Bible. Here's a church that needs a preacher. It's relatively close. Why don't I preach there? That's my thoughts. Now, certainly I prayed. I prayed for wisdom. Lord, I pray that I would, if this is a church that would be good for ministry and that I would be able to help them, then I pray that this would be able to take place. I could be their preacher. Otherwise, I pray that I'd make the right decision. Okay, I'm still consulting God on it, certainly wanting wisdom, certainly seeking that. But I don't think I was specially called there. I think what it is it's a good way to get out of jail free card. All right? You can blame it on the Holy Spirit. Sorry, everybody. I've got a new calling. As Ken mentioned earlier, just so happens this new calling is to a bigger church with better pay. Oftentimes that's the case. And so they blame it on the Holy Spirit. Guys, we have a church preacher crisis. And it's on a number of levels. Number one, most of our preachers don't understand the Pauline mystery. They don't understand the age of grace. They mix in works all the time. So they're as confused as they can be. They're using bad Bibles. I can go on and on about all the problems. But also, we just have a problem that there ain't preachers. So I'm going to tell you right now, here's my challenge to some of you. If you're a man who understands rightly dividing the word of truth, and there's a little congregation somewhere, as long as you're qualified according to Scripture, that's kind of tough qualification to meet. But you ain't got a woman problem. You ain't got a drinking problem. Go preach. Go teach them. If they run you out, hold your head up high. There's another church that'll hear you. Somebody's got to do it, because we are absolutely in a famine when it comes to preachers. There are a bunch of churches. I could right now put myself on the market, and let's just keep it simple. Let's keep it to probably a 20 square mile area from where I'm sitting right now. I could put myself on the market as a preacher, and I could get hired in probably a couple weeks, because there's churches that are about to shut the doors because they can't find a preacher, plain and simple. Hey AJ, glad to have you with us. Jason, you mentioned all faith without works is dead. I would say context is very important. I would recommend you go to the book of James, James chapter 1, verse 1. Who is James addressed to? Okay, James 1:1 says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. The 12 tribes is the nation of Israel, and if you read James chapter 1, James is talking about keeping the law. And that's the law that God gave to Israel. Even James chapter 2 is about keeping the law. So when I'm talking, you've heard me say rightly dividing a number of times there, Jason. What I mean is Paul is our apostle. You can read in Galatians chapter 2. I would recommend use a King James audio Bible if you can, you can get one pretty easy. And maybe even the ASV. I don't know how the ASV handles. Let me see if I can find an online version, just so you can hear kind of what the ASV online version would say. I don't know how they do a good job, how good of a job they do translating there. Let's see here. I'm going to try to find, let's go to Galatians chapter 2. This is the ASV. So here, not bad here. So here's what Galatians 2:7 says in the ASV, and I'm a King James guy, but let me read it to you. But contrariwise, this is Paul writing, when they saw that I had been entrusted with the gospel of the uncircumcision, even as Peter with the gospel of the circumcision. That communicates that Paul had this gospel for the circumcision that was different from Peter's gospel to the circumcision. One for Israel, one for everyone, all nations. Verse 8 says, For he that wrought for Peter unto the apostleship of the circumcision wrought for me also unto the Gentiles. Also, if you go and you read Ephesians chapter 3, Jason, if you listen to what it has to say, even, the American Standard Version here, it's not bad here. It says, How that by revelation was made known unto me the mystery, as I wrote it afore in few words, whereby when you read, you can perceive my understanding in the mystery of Christ, which in other generations was not made known unto men, as it has now been revealed unto his holy apostles and prophets in the Spirit. Now, verse 2 says, let me back up here, If so be that ye have heard of the dispensation of that grace of God, which was given me to youward. So the dispensation that Paul received was different from the one for Israel, where Israel had to keep the law. You and I now are saved by grace through faith. And when James is writing and talking about faith without works is dead, he's talking to the nation of Israel and their requirements to keep the law. At least that's my doctrinal position there, Jason, okay? So you understand me a little bit better. But I'm glad you're with us. Continue on to listen with us and continue to study. And you're going to have to decide for yourself what your doctrine is going to be. Luke says, are you familiar with Brother Terry McLean? Absolutely I am. He went to be with the Lord years ago. He did a message on the call to be a pastor. It's interesting. Check it out here. Okay. Terrence McLean, McLean Bible Institute, or no, I can't remember. He has the DBI, Dispensational Bible Institute, though. Terrence McLean is excellent, and his videos to this day, even though he's gone on to be with the Lord, his videos are very helpful. Much wisdom that he has. Everybody, I am well past time in 1 hour and 5 minutes here. I'm going to need to go ahead and get on my way. So great to meet so many of you, having those that we know on with us, but others also like Jason. So encouraging. I'll be praying for you. Continue to study to show yourself approved, rightly dividing the word of truth. That's 2 Timothy 2:15. Everybody, this has been Shields and Arrows, where we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. Thank you for being fearless defenders of the faith. We will see all of you tomorrow for our Wednesday edition. And then, of course, Wednesday night we'll be having our Studying Abraham series. All right, so thank you so much. We will see you tomorrow.